Welcome to the Land State Radio Show. We have a very good show this week. Jeremy Winston's coming in to talk a little bit NFL football. I'm here with my co-host, Michael A. Jones Jr. Dr. Arlene Archer is going to be on the show this week talking about mental health as we kind of transition into topical matter that goes beyond sports. So we're glad that you're joining us. Very excited to have you. Now that we have all the salutations out the way, I'm gonna start the show this week with a rant because I'm kind of ticked off. This weekend, Ohio State, my Ohio State Buckeyes, moved to 9-0, number one in the AP poll for about 15 consecutive weeks. I've been getting a lot of hate and vitriol, mostly by jealous people who don't follow a team that's successful and kind of perpetual losers, but also by people who are Alabama fans who Ohio State beat pretty handily last year. People are complaining about Ohio State's schedule and saying that Ohio State's not really that good. The whole stereotypical, the SEC, we beat up on each other. It's so difficult to be in the SEC. Every week is a war. Every week is a rivalry game. Every week is so difficult so that by the end of the year, the SEC teams are so beat up that it's an unfair disadvantage. So this week also, Alabama beat LSU. Alabama was the fourth-ranked team in the country. They beat LSU. It's the second-ranked team in the country. LSU is a very, very good team. They have the running back, Fournette. It's probably going to be a top 5 pick in the draft, even though running backs don't get drafted that high in the NFL anymore.
Well, Gurley's looking special. That might have brought the running back position back. So
and Gurley who went to Georgia, came and got drafted by the Rams, is having a very successful rookie campaign. But what bothers me, Michael, I was debating with someone about Alabama's schedule. I said, let me look and see who Alabama's beaten other than LSU. So LSU is a very quality opponent. Ohio State plays Michigan and Michigan State, which are both very good top 10 teams in the country. They just haven't played. They will play
or they have played?
They will play. They will play.
Okay.
The last 2 games are against Michigan and Michigan State. So
Alabama
today,
this year, have they played?
They haven't played anyone today, but that's not the debate. The whole debate is about Ohio State never plays anybody. The Big Ten is really easy. Every week in the SEC is so difficult. So look at who's in the SEC. Georgia. Georgia's a fraud. Georgia's one of the biggest frauds in college football. Every year Georgia's supposed to go to a BCS title game. This is the year they're going to win the national championship. Mark Richt always finds a way to lose 3 games every year. Georgia's been blown out 3 times this year. They're talking about firing Mike Richt. Georgia's not that good. I don't think Georgia's better than Iowa. I don't think Georgia's better than Michigan State. I don't think Georgia's better than Michigan. Tennessee is a joke. Tennessee has been a joke.
You just named the top 3 programs in the Big Ten, right? Those would be the top 3 teams that you just named. You said you don't think Georgia's better than?
Northwestern's a solid team. Penn State's a solid team. Look at the SEC. Look at Tennessee.
Wait. I'm just trying to compare apples to apples right now. So, who are your top 3 Big Ten teams?
I just named them. It's Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State.
Who are your top 3 SEC teams?
I would say Alabama, LSU, and Florida.
Which 3 do you think is a better 3?
I think that Alabama, LSU, and Florida are a better 3, but that's not the point of my discussion.
But that kind of is the point. We're talking conference versus conference, not one school versus one school.
No,
Ohio State
is
up there with anybody. But the point is the schedule. You're right. So if you're saying that the SEC teams are better than the Big Ten teams, then the SEC teams are playing a tougher schedule. So past the top 3, who's the next 3 in the Big Ten for you?
Well, Northwestern is a pretty good team. Iowa is ranked in the top 10 also.
Okay.
So that's 2. Nebraska, Wisconsin, Penn State, they're fringe teams. I wouldn't say that they're elite. in any way.
Okay.
But I think you're deviating from the point. The point is, if you look at who Alabama's beaten this year, who have they beaten outside of LSU?
Okay, so now we're at who have they beat. All right. So here's my question. So now we're on to who they've played this year so far, right?
Correct.
Who's Ohio State played so far?
They haven't played anybody.
So what are we talking about?
So Alabama,
is that the argument you want to go with right now?
Alabama's beaten one good team. Ohio State's beaten none. They play two good teams at the back end of their season. Alabama gets to play a terrible Auburn team. I'm saying at the end of the year, if they both run the table from here on out, Ohio State will have played just as difficult.
But that's not what you just said. Your argument was just who they played, who's Alabama played. That's what you just asked. Who has Alabama played? So I asked you who Ohio State played, and you said nobody. So now we're talking about the future. Anything could happen in the future. Ohio State could lose.
But conceptually, and if they lose, then I'll eat it. Then that will prove that will prove against my point.
But by your own admission, the argument that they haven't played anybody is valid.
Well, we're getting into semantics. I'm basically saying that Alabama's schedule is not more difficult than Ohio State's schedule. So if you want to say that their schedule year to date,
of what we're talking about.
If you want to say that the schedule year to date is weaker, that's fine. That's actually true. I think that the point that I'm trying to drive home is people from the SEC say it's so difficult to play in the SEC. You're playing a great team every week. I'm saying you're not playing a great team every week.
All right,
you're
so
playing
here's my
LSU
next question.
and a bunch of mediocre teams. Texas A&M is not a great team.
Missouri's
not a great
team. Question. Okay, here's my question for you then. Say, just if you had to guesstimate over the last 10 years, top to bottom, which conference would have been better on average? Not the top teams, but the entire conference. Which one you think would have been averaged out to be a better conference?
It would definitely be the SEC.
You said definitely.
It would definitely be the SEC.
So then the SEC is playing a tougher schedule every week.
I'm saying that that's not the case now, that we're living in the past. I'm saying that the teams in the SEC are not significantly better than the teams in any other conference in 2015. In 2012, yes.
Okay, so they're not, but we just said, well, I asked you top three versus top three. You said SEC was better. We go to next three. You only gave me two Big Ten teams. We didn't even have three. So which one will be better? I'm guessing we'd be at SEC again, right?
I don't know if I agree with that, though, because that next three in the SEC is not very good.
It's not better than...
Look at the bowls.
I'm asking the question just right now. That's what you just went to. You don't want to talk historically because you just said historically the SEC has been better. So let's talk right now. Right now, would you say the next three in the Big Ten are better than the next three in the SEC?
I would say they're even.
You would say they're even?
I would say they're even. And I would say the SEC top three is slightly better. It's not exponentially better. Alabama's not better than Ohio State. That was proven the last time that they met on the field.
Okay.
Michigan is still getting ramped up. But do you really think that Michigan couldn't compete with LSU on a neutral field? Did they beat Michigan 41-7? I doubt it. It's a very close game. Michigan State is highly competitive, and they lost this week. They lost this week to Nebraska. But they would be highly competitive with Florida. Florida beat Vanderbilt 9-7. I mean, Florida's not a world beater. It's not like when Urban Meyer was at Florida and LSU was elite and Bama was elite and Florida was elite, and you had three top five teams every year, and then every once in a while you'd have a senior class that was really good at some of the other SEC schools. That's just not the case anymore.
I understand that SEC's dominance may not be at the same level it was 5-7 years ago. That's not the argument.
They don't have a single pro quarterback prospect at all. Ohio State has three of them. They don't have a single quarterback. Hackenberg at Penn State.
So a pro quarterback.
Penn has several.
Okay. So a pro quarterback prospect makes you good?
a pro quarterback prospect makes you better than some of the nonsense that Alabama and LSU have been trotting out there the last several years.
Who's the best quarterback in the league right now? Who are the best
in
three
football?
quarterbacks in the league? The NFL.
Well, that's debatable. That's another conversation. I don't want to get into that. Definitely Tom Brady's definitely one of them. I'm sure Aaron Rodgers is one of them.
Give me 3 or 4 or 5. Name the top one.
You say Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, maybe Peyton Manning. Not anymore. He's not.
Okay. All right, so let's work with those 3. Let's work with those 3. Peyton Manning was at Tennessee.
Went to Tennessee.
Not a top program.
Tennessee was a top program when Peyton Manning was there. They won a championship the year after Peyton Manning left. They won a national championship.
They were solid, but they were never just like the monster program of college football.
They won a national championship.
I understand that, and you also said that was the year after he graduated. That's
obviously they had talent. It's the same. He's a junior.
Okay, but please let me finish. You just had your rant. Let me say what I got to say. So, Tom Brady, he's next. He was off the bench. He didn't even play in college, so that doesn't even count. He was a backup.
But he went to Michigan, who was elite at the time.
He went to Michigan, but he was a backup. He wasn't Michigan's starting quarterback. He was a backup.
He was a backup. He backed up Elvis Gerback.
Aaron Rodgers, where'd he go?
Cal.
It wasn't Cal, though, was it?
He went to Cal. He played for
Cal?
Jeff He played for
Jeff
Tedford.
Okay, it was Cal. I was thinking it was like Cal Poly or something. No, it was Cal. You're right.
No, he went to Cal. Golden Bears.
You're right. It was Cal. But not an elite program. A lot of times in college football, the best college football team does not have NFL quarterback. Tim Tebow was one of the best college quarterbacks ever. Nobody can argue that.
He was an NFL prospect, though. He just failed in the NFL.
No, he wasn't. Not
he
really.
was drafted in the first round, so he was obviously an NFL prospect, Michael, or he wouldn't have been drafted in the first round.
He was an NFL prospect because he was a winner. I never heard anyone ever say he could throw.
Yeah,
which is kind of the job of an NFL quarterback. You heard something? Did you ever hear anyone say he could throw?
Well, I didn't need for Mel Kiper to tell me. I mean, I could see with his story.
I know you could see it. But I'm talking about as far as talk of being a pro prospect. Did you ever hear anyone say he could throw?
I never heard anyone say that, no.
So if you're talking about an NFL pro prospect, his options were limited from the start. But he was one of the best college quarterbacks ever. It's a different ball game.
So as we close this segment, is it possible that you're a little bit jealous because you're a Penn State fan and you're kind of
not at all
undermining this segment because Ohio State has been giving you the business since you joined the Big Ten?
Not at all.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
No, because for me, Big Ten being better makes Penn State better.
It does. You have a great coach.
Because recruits would want to come play there because it's in the Big Ten, which is a top conference. I have nothing but love for the Big Ten. So it's not that at all. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You know.
It might be a little bit of jealousy. It's all right. It's all right, Michael. It's okay.
See, and that sounds like the argument of someone who feels like they just lost the argument. I wasn't trying to win or lose the argument.
Hey, I mean, it's our show. We co-host the show, so if you win the argument, I win. I mean, it's just we all win regardless. It's just.
I just, don't want you to feel like a sore loser because you just got out-debated. That's not the point. All I'm saying
man, we were on debate team together in high school. I mean, it is what it is. That's why I asked you to co-host the show. I didn't want to steamroll whoever else is in that chair. I just think, and the segment's up, so you've kind of ruined my segment. That's fine. I'm still going to air it because I'm not that type of guy.
Oh, I know you wanted to rant.
At the end of the day, I'm saying that Ohio State's cumulative schedule at the end of the year will be on par with Alabama. That's my point, that their schedule is just as difficult. Year to date, it's not. They haven't played the most difficult games yet.
But But the SEC fans' argument is that every game, every year is a grind, which is not a statement that.
Have you seen Auburn almost lost to a D2 team? They're terrible.
But Lou, but generally speaking, over the last 10 years, that has been true in the SEC. You can't write them off for one down year, any more than you could write off the Big Ten for having 15 down years, and people still tried to give the Big Ten love.
That's the only fair thing that you said in this entire conversation. You can listen to Michael Jones Talk Reckless on One-on-One with MJ, his show, where it's a monologue, so he doesn't have to debate with me or anybody else. We will be back on the Last Day Radio Show with Jeremy Winston after these messages.
Who is it you think you see? Do you know how much I make a year? I mean, even if I told you, you wouldn't believe it. Do you know what would happen if I suddenly decided to stop going into work? A business big enough that it could be listed on the NASDAQ goes belly up. Disappears. It ceases to exist without me. No, you clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clue you in. I am not in danger, Skylar. I am the danger.
You are listening to the Lance J Radio Show on Advent Sports Network.
So just when I was about to write the Indianapolis Colts off after having a disastrous season, which culminated in possibly the most embarrassing play call in the history of the NFL, where they ran a fake punt that started with the third-string wide receiver snapping the ball to the third-string safety. The Colts actually showed some signs of life.
Hold up. Let me ask, what was that about, man? Did you ever get an answer like what? Because I think about that every day. Like every day.
You think about it every day? So you think about every day.
It was the most absurd. It was the most absurd play in the history of the NFL. I mean, everybody moved out the way. I mean, really, there's no logic.
You put your beautiful daughter down, and you help your oldest daughter with her homework. You're out doing stuff for Central State, getting your chorale groups together, going over music, spending time with your family. And you're saying every day through all of that.
Every day. It's every day a thought comes on my mind, and I just pause and I look up in the air and I think, what was Pagano thinking, man?
I don't know. I think we've been on hiatus for a few weeks, so we didn't cover it. Maybe that was by design. Maybe it wasn't by design. I don't know.
Let's just say for the record here that was by far the most idiotic play I've ever seen in just all of history. I mean, like you said, a receiver snapping to a punter with no blocking and just hike him the ball and see what happens. I mean, really, like just move the blocking out the way, get him out the way.
From what was explained, they were supposed to set that play up to see what the defense would react. That was Chuck Pagano's explanation in the press conference. So if they had a look when they flanked out and put everyone on the side, obviously in football, you know, Jeremy, everyone doesn't have to be on the line.
Right.
So the ball's going to snap. As long as there are 5 people on the line, actually I think it's 6 people on the line, and then you have some people that are receivers. One of them has to be they have to be in a step behind the line of scrimmage, whatever those rules map to. As long as it doesn't matter where they are on the field.
Right. So what you're saying, this was the NFL version of, hey, look, your shoes are untied, you know, and maybe they'll look down long enough where I can run by them because they're not professionally paid athletes. They're being paid millions of dollars to keep somebody from getting a first down. So they're going to be thrown off by the fact that, oh yeah, I got 7 people on this right side of the field, but the ball's right here, and they're just gonna be so confused that they're just gonna drop on, you know. I mean,
so
okay.
Confused. Right. So I think the plan was, if there was only one person and everyone flanked out, if the rest of the team followed everyone that flanked out, you had a 2-on-1 situation where you had someone hiking the ball, and you had the individual getting the ball, and there's only one person to beat, so you take your chances on the play. The Patriots left 3 people, so it was a 3 versus 2 matchup. For some inexplicable reason, Griff Whalen decided to hike the ball. Other than the only explanation would be is that he's a 4th-string wide receiver, so he's not any good, which is why he wouldn't know any better than to hike the ball in that situation.
Listen. That's not his fault. If you're the coach and say, hey, just get down and he should have been given some explicit, under no circumstances, do not hike the ball. Clearly, those instructions weren't given. He felt on some level, let's just go for it. Let's just go for it. I know the 2 dudes right next to me. I'm not a blocker. You're not a runner. But let's just go for it. And didn't they have like 3 yards or something like that? It wasn't inches. It was like 3 yards or something, or 5.
It was a 4th and 3. It was a 4th and 3.
All right, I know this is not what you want the segment to be about, but we just had this.
But not only that, the irony is, had the play worked, they still got flagged for the illegal motion because everybody was not set on the line like it was supposed to be set. So even if no one had been there and they had run for a touchdown, the play still would have been called back. So
right.
It was an awful idea from the start. So I take the L on that. That was embarrassing. I got lots of calls. I didn't cover it on the show because we were on hiatus. But that was embarrassing.
That worked out well for you.
Still my shine though. I mean, the Colts won this week, which is what matters. So the Colts were able to beat Peyton Manning again. Since Peyton Manning has left for Denver, he's 1-3 versus the Colts, including a loss in the playoffs last year. The Colts stormed out to a 17-0 lead, kind of start to fall apart a little bit in the second half. Andrew Luck had a very good game, very efficient, threw for 250 yards, completed about 60% of his passes, didn't throw any interceptions. Colts didn't have any turnovers. Colts were able to get 2 picks on Peyton Manning, who now has 15 interceptions on the season. 14 interceptions on the season. So Peyton Manning's on a pace to throw 28 interceptions. Denver came into the game 7-0 with the best defensive statistic in the NFL. Colts were able to move the ball on the ground and through the air. So for 1 week, we have a chance. For 1 week, I can go to bed thinking that, hey, if some things break right, maybe we get into the playoffs 9-7. We get the first game at home because the Colts play in a terrible division. So the AFC South is the worst division in football, next to the NFC East, which is your team that the Eagles play in.
Both clearly not the worst.
Terrible division.
Right.
So the Colts, if they win their division even at 8-8, they'll get a home playoff game. And if they're able to win a home playoff game, they'll probably end up going to Denver, which they've owned since Peyton Manning went to Denver and they brought in Andrew Luck. So you would think that theoretically we have an opportunity to get back to the AFC title game. At least that's what I'm thinking this week. They could go out next week. They play Atlanta.
Hold up.
They could get beat by 30 by Atlanta, and they could end up going 7-9 or 6-10, and I'm back to whining.
Yeah, you snuck in. You snuck in that AFC championship game in there, man. I mean, let me just say, I think that
championship last year, they're not any much worse of a team now than they were last year. I mean, the
they're significantly worse. They're significantly worse. They're playing well. They're playing.
Not worse.
No, personnel wise, they're not worse, but they're playing like a team that shouldn't even make it to the playoffs right now. Andrew Luck is struggling. Yeah, they had a good game today, but it's been a difficult year for this offensive team. Your running game is pretty much non-existent. Like I said, Andrew Luck has had a lot of difficult games. The interceptions are up significantly. I mean, listen, I think to say that this is the same team, yeah, it's the same team on paper, but to say that this is the same team as it was last year is by far off base. I mean, look, I'm trying to think. You all are, in terms of offense, what are you all? You all are you're ranked 15 in offense. I mean, that's not a mark of a team that's going to make it to the AFC Championship, especially in the AFC where you got Denver. Yeah, you all just beat Denver, but just for the record, had it not been for that 17-0 lead that you all got, that you all almost threw that game away. So that was not, as much as you want to paint your squad as looking great in old form. Let's not get carried away here. It was a win. It was a win. It was a win, no doubt. I'm not trying to take it from you. And you all did, Andrew Luck in the first half, on some level expose Denver Broncos defense, which I didn't think was possible. But, you almost gave it away.
Yeah, but even I think the point that I'm saying, Jeremy, we're not that good of a team. We weren't that good of a team last year. We weren't that good of a team the year before. It's this last year, Andrew Luck played better. We didn't turn the ball over as much. And until they ran into the Patriots, they were better than the other teams in the AFC. So if you go 11-5 and you win close games and you're really not that good of a team, your record's inflated. If you go 9-7 or 8-8 with the same team, you didn't win some of those close games. I'm saying their personnel still is what it is. If the Colts don't turn the ball over and Andrew Luck's not throwing picks, they can compete with anyone. They should have beat Carolina. They're up on Carolina in overtime. Actually, the first team in NFL history to lose a game with the new overtime rules where they scored first. They've proven that they can play with good teams if they don't turn the ball over. If they turn the ball over, they'll get blown out. So right now, based on beating a 7-0 Denver Broncos team that has the best defense in the NFL, we have hope. We're going to win our division. They're going to have a home playoff game, which is winnable. And that second playoff game is likely going to be versus the 2 seed, which is going to be Denver, which the Colts have proven repeatedly that they can go to Denver and get a victory, which puts them back in the AFC Championship game to get thrashed by the Patriots once again. However, you never know. Tom Brady could have a stomach virus. Something bad could happen.
Yeah.
You go up against him, right. He has anything can happen. I just want to see it at the table, and that's just all I'm saying. I'd rather be 8-8 and have a chance to compete than go 13-3 and be a fraud. The Colts aren't a fraud right now because they're not that good. That's my point.
Well, listen, and then every other fan in the whole entire of any team can make an argument at this point. We're still early on. The strongest point you have at this time is that you're in a terrible division. The Colts are in a terrible division, and you all are right now tied with Houston Texans. So, it is likely, based upon what the Houston Texans are doing, that you all are going to make it to the playoffs. But anything is possible. You could have an injury. You could have luck just absolutely start stinking it up these next couple of weeks. I think you're all about to go on a bye week or something. But the fact of the matter is, anything is possible. What is very clear is that the Colts are having a subpar year as compared to the previous years. AFC is looking very strong. Yeah, you all beat Denver today, and you all are in a good position to possibly make some moves, but now it's the time to do it. But the Patriots are looking great. The Bengals are looking great as well. I don't know who's going to get the bye. It's probably going to be either the Patriots and the Bengals or the Patriots and the Broncos. The pathway through to the Super Bowl is through New England, and I don't think you all get there. But I just think, I just don't think you can count your chickens yet. Pittsburgh Steelers are not out of it. You can't count them out of it. They may come up and they may be approved to be an issue for you all. Even the Oakland Raiders, I know, that's going to be a dark horse, quite frankly, going in for the AFC. So you got all these teams that you've got to go through who are looking pretty strong. And, you all have some history. You got the talent with Luck and all of that, but seeing, putting it that far and trying to replay what happened last year, going to in New England for the AFC Championship, I think is going to be a stretch. Even though the talent looks similar to last year, I think it's going to be a stretch. But hey, time will tell.
And the NFL is a week-to-week business. All I know is last week we were 3-5. We had no hope. They fired Pep Hamilton. We were ready to fire Pagano, fire the GM, which I still think both of them should get fired because they've done an awful job managing the roster. But this week after a win, I'm happy.
Anything's possible.
Hopefully the Eagles can get back on track and you can be happy so your spirit of hatred can evaporate. And
whatever.
The season is what it is, Jeremy. As long as you're mathematically alive, there's always hope.
And that's the case for us. That's the case for both of us. The NFC East is wide open. The Giants, I mean, the Cowboys are really looking bad. I mean, Tony Romo's supposed to come back next week. Everyone's trying to talk about, next week or the week after next. Probably just in time for Thanksgiving. I'm not sure, but he's coming back very soon. And it's all because of the offensive line that that there may be some hope. But, whatever. We got the Giants and the Eagles that are kind of battling out. The Washington Redskins look absolutely pitiful. I don't know if any of your listeners saw them today, but that was it. And they played New England, and that was the absolute most embarrassing display of talent I've ever seen. So that puts us in a good position. And, but Carolina Panthers, I'm just thinking of NFC. Carolina Panthers look really strong. They pulled out that big win against Green Bay. No one thought they were going to be able to pull it off, but they were the underdogs even at home. But really had a decisive lead over them in the first half, and they almost let away at the end, but their defense came through. So I'm happy for them. I'm happy for Cam Newton.
There it is. Jeremy Winston, James Lewis, fans of teams that suck but have hope because they play a weak division. I'll take it.
Right.
Next on the Lance Day Radio Show, Dr. Arlene Archer will be coming in and talking about mental health and how it's important to the sports paradigm and continuum. Back on Advent Sports Network.
You're on the ticket with Advent Sports Network, home of Falcon Pride, One-on-One with MJ, and the Lance J Radio Show.
I am bringing in people who are going to be a part of the bigger picture. Those that have been listening, I've put up about 20 episodes of this program in the last 6 months. Put a lot of personal time and energy into it. Some of you have seen me calling highlights of sports games for South Central Conference basketball on YouTube. And the end game here isn't for myself or for Alan Bozeman or for Jeremy Winston, people that are on the ticket on ASN to get personal pub on YouTube or on Facebook. The goal is to actually raise money for young people to establish sports programs. So if we're able to raise money and go to areas that are downtrodden, areas that would like to have basketball teams or put together cheerleading programs, but don't have the finances. The goal is for Advent Sports Network, which is a 503c charity, to be able to step in and fill that void and go to leadership and really be a part of grassroots movements in the community to keep young people surrounded by church activities as opposed to being on the streets where they're prey to all types of foolishness. So when we started establishing the board of directors for Advent Sports Network, I started to look at my Rolodex of people who were virtuous, people who were intelligent, people who have experience mentoring youth, both in the Seventh-day Adventist community and abroad. And our next guest is one of the first people that came to mind, especially on the mentorship angle. Our next guest is a long-standing friend of mine. I won't tell stories about her. We were talking before we started about we could go back and forth with stories on each other. Some of them would be offensive. It would cause us to probably actually get in an argument on the show. But our next guest is someone I've been tight with her for many years. She grew up coming to my church. Her sister and I went to her older sister and I went to the same church as I was a kid, and she would come and visit during the summers. I went to Oakwood with this young lady. Good friends, have maintained that friendship into adulthood. I've had the chance to watch her young children grow up and really becoming not babies anymore, but actually I believe her oldest is heading into kindergarten, heading into first grade soon. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Arlene Archer. She is the host of a program that's also on YouTube, which is an excellent program, a ministry program. She talks about fitness. She talks about the whole psychological aspect of managing mental health. Arlene has a very high-level doctoral degree that's over my head, but I know it's in psychology. So I'd like to welcome Arlene to my show and say, hey, first of all, thank you for coming on the show, Arlene. Second of all,
thank you for having me.
Thank you much more for being a part of the board of directors at Advent Sports Network. And like I said before, insulating me from myself, people like you and Myron, Al Johnson, people that have credibility and can help me take this charity to places I can.
Well, thank you, James, for having me. Listen, when you called me or contacted me in regard to this, I mean, I did not even need to ask any questions. For sure I was going to be on board. But it is just hilarious to me that we are even in this position together because, like you were saying, yeah, I know all kinds of stories about you. I've known you from way back in the day.
Way
all
back.
all kind of crazy stuff, and it's just to see and know that, and then to see and know you now. I'm like, wow. It's just hearing you so well-spoken and professional. Not that you weren't then, but I mean, like, whoa.
Yeah, I was brilliant in college. Let's not.
I'm not trying to put all your stuff out there. I'm just saying, 19. Praise God for growth and development and maturity, and the Lord has really, really been a strong force in your life, so we praise God for that. But yes, I am blessed to be a part of this situation we have here.
Indeed. Tell us a bit about, before we go into the Advent Sports Network stuff, tell us about TheLifeDctr. Tell us about your YouTube channel and all of the great things that you're talking about, that you're blogging about, that you're writing about. How did you come up with that concept, and what are some of the things that you discuss on your programming?
Absolutely. So for those of you who may not know specifically, James kind of alluded to this. I have a degree in psychology. I'm a clinical psychologist. And so because I have a love and a passion and a conviction with regards to helping people improve the quality of their lives, I thought that in this day and age where we have all these different venues and platforms, particularly social media, to reach out to people, why not be a part of that movement as well? And so I thought that I could start up a YouTube channel. So many people are doing it. I looked at other people's videos and thought, well, I can do this because I do this type of thing, and I'm referring to motivating people and encouraging people. I do this kind of thing professionally, as a psychologist. That's a part of what I do. As a professor of psychology, advising students, encouraging students, that's a part of what I do. So why not take this to a broader audience and reach people that I may never get to reach in my day-to-day interaction, because I'll never meet them in real life. And so that's kind of where that was born. But then when I started to think about it, I didn't want to just keep it focused on things pertaining to psychology or things that are emotionally, a burden to people. I wanted it to be even broader than that. And so I wanted something that would kind of encapsulate that vision of it being a broader ministry, reaching a broader audience and covering just a wide range of topics. And so I figured, since I am a doctor and I want to cover whatever life entails, then TheLifeDctr. And so that's kind of how I came up with TheLifeDctr and my channel. And so really I do talk about pretty much whatever I have either experienced in the past that I feel comfortable sharing, and I do try to be very transparent, what I'm going through now or what I think that people are going through themselves, and something that I might have a little bit more insight into just because of my background in psychology and education. And so more recently, the different things that I've been vlogging about and talking about have to do with fitness, because I recently went on, and I'm still going through and, making changes in my life, but I recently went on a lifestyle journey where I lost a significant amount of weight. I lost between 85 and 90 pounds, and this, began informally after having my daughter, who is now 2, but more formally maybe 9 to 12 months ago. And I really, really wanted to kind of give back to others what I had received from others. What I mean by that is just looking at other people's Facebook posts and looking at other people's blogs on YouTube, I was really impressed and I was really inspired and encouraged to be able to even embark on this huge endeavor for me, losing this amount of weight. And it was because of those inspiring posts and those inspiring videos that I was able to, of course, with God's help, accomplish this goal and surpass my goals. And so I was really just on fire and really wanted to be that inspiration for somebody else, another mother who's struggling, another man who is struggling, whoever, and just let them know that if they can do it, if I can do it, so can they. And just really, really, really be that motivating force for them. So that's pretty much what I've been talking about more recently. But of course, I talk about things that impact your life, like relationships. I talk about finances, organizing your home, raising your children, homeschooling. That's something that I'm also very passionate about because I'm now, homeschooling my kids. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. So my 5-year-old is in kindergarten, and my 2-year-old is, of course, at the preschool level. So I'm very passionate about that. That is a growing passion of mine. And so, again, whatever I'm experiencing, whatever issues I think may be of value and important to other people, I'm going to blog about it. I'm going to talk about it on YouTube.
So a very thorough description of your program, TheLifeDctr. I would advise those that listen to my program to definitely check it out. It's very inspirational. Kind of the format, it's, from what I've seen, you put the camera on you, so you're actually talking. It's not like my program, which is a radio format.
Right,
like
absolutely.
You tape interviews.
It's really, pretty important. Yeah.
Yeah. You go in on some very important topics. You are a professional psychologist. One of the things that's overlooked, and this is a sports show, so I'm gonna take us back to the sports element eventually. But this is very compelling. One of the things, and even with athletes, one of the things that we really often overlook in society, especially in the athletic realm, especially in the Christian church, especially in the Seventh-day Adventist church, is the importance of mental health. People are really struggling with issues, rather they've been through something from their childhood that they haven't been able to let go of. People are going through issues within their marriage. People are going through issues within as they raise children. People are going through spiritual questions. People have mental health deficiencies where they're not able to regulate and this is getting to the stuff that's over my head, but they're not able to regulate properly mentally, and they can't control outbursts, they can't control feelings of sadness. Why is it so important as a Christian woman and as a mother, why is it so important to share your experience as a professional with individuals about maintaining and managing their mental health?
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, mental health is something that I think a lot of people take for granted because they're unaware of how pervasive mental illness is. And so as a Christian mom, as a professional, I don't want to overlook this for any population, including people that are involved in sports, professionally or otherwise. I think that it is so important to kind of bring this to the forefront to really make people be aware is that we don't want people falling by the wayside because of a lack of resources. We don't want people to fall by the wayside because they feel like they are alone in this journey, in this fight for maintaining or obtaining mental health. I mean, it is so pervasive within the celebrity world, within the just general population, in the church, and unfortunately, it is very pervasive in the church. One of the reasons why is because it's swept under the rug so much. There's so much shame, there's so much stigma attached to it that a lot of Christians do not want to address this. So then when you add being a Christian to being, to having something else that's kind of in the public eye, like being a professional athlete, somebody who is performing or expected to perform. So you have that Christian kind of history country where we don't talk about it. You know, we're just going to pray it away. And I don't want to minimize or trivialize prayer, because clearly I am a woman of prayer, woman of faith, and I believe that with God all things are possible. So it is so important that we address this within the general population, but particularly within the church setting, particularly with those who, along with being Christians and are accustomed to sweeping these issues under the rug, are also athletes and in the public eye, because there's that added pressure of being watched, of having to perform, of having to be quote-unquote perfect. And a lot of these individuals are struggling with depression, struggling with eating disorders, struggling with anxiety to perform. I mean, throwing up, just having panic attacks. I mean, just all sorts of things that people are experiencing. And so I just feel it's really important to let people know that these things, first of all, are real, like it exists, because there's a population of people who think that this is something that is self-imposed. Like, if you really want to not be sad, you can just decide to not be sad. Right. If you really want to not have anxiety, you can just decide to not have anxiety. And I don't want to, again, minimize, just like I don't want to minimize the power of prayer, I don't want to minimize the power of positive thinking, because I think that there's something to that as well. That's true. You know, how we think certainly does impact how we feel and how we behave. But then there are certain issues and elements that are kind of beyond that, like chemical imbalances. And when we don't have enough of the right chemical or too much of certain chemicals, that can really throw things off kilter. And that's when we're going to need some extra help. And I really want to educate people on the seriousness of that, and that it's real and exists, and that there's help out there, and that you're not the only one dealing with this issue.
So very encouraging words from a professional. We're going to take a break for some of our sponsors on the Lance J Radio Show, and I'll be back with more of Dr. Arlene Archer, host of her show, TheLifeDctr. We are back with the Lance J Radio Show. I'm talking to one of my good friends over the years, Dr. Arlene Archer. She's going to be a member of the Advent Sports Network Board of Directors. She's going to help play a very pivotal role in putting together the mentorship program. You've heard some of the commercials on my show with we have an institute, a program development leadership institute for young individuals that want to get into media. One of the deficiencies in the SDA church, I can't speak for other Christian listeners out here, but in the SDA church, and Arlene's a pastor's kid, I'm a pastor's kid. In the SDA church, it's very geared towards individuals that can preach and individuals that can sing. There are people with other talents. There are people that don't play sports, they don't sing, they don't preach, but they're excellent writers. And they have interest in doing media both in front of and behind the camera. So we're trying to start a program that will help bolster that activity and actually encourage people. So I want Dr. Archer to be a part of that. Could you tell us, Dr. Archer, I know you did a stint at Oakwood. You were a very, yes. For people that I know that have taken your class, I hear that you're very, what's the word I'm looking for? You're very thorough, and you expected your students to be very thorough in their approach to your classes. Yes. I mean, you were very serious about your calling to spend that time at Oakwood, even though it wasn't many, many, many years, but you were serious about the calling for the time you were there. What is the importance in mentorship to young people? I mean, you've talked about mental health and you've talked about your own fitness journey. What's the importance of being a member, not just as a parent and a pastor's wife, which you are, so you and your husband, Oliver, do ministry together in the Metro Detroit area. But what's the importance of wrapping all of that up and bringing young people in and kind of passing your knowledge and wisdom that you've worked so hard to attain over many years to the next generation?
Absolutely. Like you said, I was blessed to be able to minister through teaching at Oakwood from 2005 to 2008. So it was a very short tenure there, but thoroughly enjoyed my time there, really felt convicted that that's where I needed to be at exactly that time. And so during that time, I was able to mentor and teach young people. And I took it so seriously because I really feel like, particularly with minorities, a lot of our children are kind of falling by the wayside, and there's so much that they can learn from inappropriate sources. And I wanted to kind of help buffer some of that and be one of the positive sources that they learn something from. And not just that, but because I was the age that I was when I was teaching at Oakwood, I was relatively young. I was like in my late 20s. So I was relatively young. I felt like I wasn't that far removed from the students that I was teaching. And so for me, I felt like they can look at me and see somebody who was relatively accomplished, having completed a bachelor's, a master's, and a doctorate prior to teaching there. So they could see somebody that was not that far removed from what they looked like, literally, and somebody that literally learned in the very classrooms that they were learning in, so that if she could do it, in their minds they're thinking, if she could do it, then certainly so could I. And that's really the imprint that I wanted to leave with them. If God can use me, if God can help me matriculate through, what you might feel is a difficult course of study, what you might feel is impossible, if He can help me do this, He can certainly help you do it. And look, I'm here. I'm real. I'm not somebody in a textbook. I'm real. I exist. And I look like you. So it's possible for us, for our people, to do this. And so I really wanted students, those students and students in general, because I feel like for me, education, period, is a passion. It's a conviction, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's from the pulpit, whether it's in therapy, because a part of what I do in therapizing people is educating as well. But I really, really, really want our students in general to understand that it is serious. Education is not a joke. Yes, there are people that are very successful. There are people that make loads of money with what we would consider a minimal amount of education. But what you know cannot ever be taken away from you. And even those people with quote-unquote limited education, they have education in other ways. That may not be from a book, but they are very well versed in what they do.
Hard knocks.
That's right. They are very well versed in what they do. They are an expert in what they do. That's why they're successful. And so for these students that wanted my signature, my name on a recommendation letter for graduate school, well, I wasn't going to be signing my name to any foolishness. So you're not going to come to me asking for recommendation, but you're not stringing together a sentence appropriately in the term paper that you're supposed to be turning into me. So that's not happening. So I wanted to help them get it together so that when they transition out of that insular supportive setting and go to maybe a graduate setting or a workplace that may not be as supportive or understanding, that they are equipped. I didn't want those students or any student that I come across to be ill-equipped for whatever next stage God has for them. And so my commitment to them, and I told them this, that while you're under my care, while it is my watch, we're going to be all about business. We can laugh and grin and do all and be friends, hee-hee, but when we're in the classroom, we're not playing games. We're not playing, not on my watch, because I have you for the time that I have you, and that is it. And I feel like God held me responsible to doing my best in helping to shape these young people. Now, what they decide to do or what they decided to do after they left, my time with them, I have nothing to do with that. But I would know and be able to sleep well at night because I did everything that I could do to show them, to teach them, to help them, to tutor them, to encourage them, to be whatever I needed to be in that time that I had them so that they could be as well equipped as they could be for the next level.
So for those listening, this is the same aura and enthusiasm that Dr. Archer is going to bring to Advent Sports Network as far as mentoring. I really want her to, she's going to be working and assigned with Michaela Arthurs, who is kind of our young sensation. She's up at Pine Forge. She has her own show, Falcon Pride. She was really one of the people to help launch Advent Sports Network before she went to Pine Forge. And we just want people like Dr. Archer that are going to give back, that have taught and been in academia, also someone who's a parent and can impart that knowledge and wisdom. I want to tell a few funny stories. It's funny that you talked about that you won't sign your name. I don't know if you remember this. Many years ago at Oakwood, you used to tutor at the Tutoring Institute. I think it was called
Yes,
CAA.
I did.
I'm getting old.
Center for Academic Achievement? Was that what it's called? Something like that.
So it's very funny you talked about your endorsement because I was a chemistry whiz in high school. I was really, really good at chemistry. Too lazy to be a biochem major, but that was actually my strongest suit. Even though I wasn't taking college-level chemistry, I'd already taken a college-level chemistry course when I was between Pine Forge and Oakwood. So I was been in these advanced placement chemistry-level classes. So I used to tutor chemistry. I wanted to tutor it at CAA to get paid for it. Arlene was already there tutoring, so I was friends with Arlene, and I pulled Arlene aside. I said, hey, can you give me a letter of endorsement? So
really? Did you ask me that?
And so I asked you for that. If you went through the same spiel that you just went through just now, you said,
I did?
James, you're my friend, but I can't give you a letter of endorsement unless you can verify to see what are your credentials, who have you tutored, what grades did they get, can I get someone that can endorse that you've actually tutored? And I'm looking at you like, dude, like this is a tutoring job at CAA.
Okay. I do not remember this at all.
So it's funny that you are still as much of a stickler and still as thorough because you gave me the same degree when I came to tutor at CAA. So I find that very funny. I know I'm gonna let you tell your story. I'm not gonna bash. I remember times. Another good story I have on you. I'm gonna have to tell this. So if you get Yanis and Sheba to listen.
Oh my Lord.
For those listening, we're way off topic, but I don't care. It's my show, so I'm gonna say what I want to say. Because Arlene's sister lived in the same city I lived in, sometimes Arlene would ride home with me to Columbus, Ohio from Oakwood. And she had two really close friends who I became friends with over the years. And we would all ride together, which is common for people that go to college abroad. I mean, you carpool. And sometimes they would head to Canada from your place, or sometimes they would stay with you.
Mm-hmm.
But one day, the three of you were riding with me. Y'all had to get out of the dorm, so you ended up staying with me and Albie, who had a pretty big apartment.
Yep.
So you stayed in our living room. So the three of you stayed in our living room. We were packed up and ready to go. It was late. I think I went out to hang out with some of my friends or was doing some stuff in the city. So I left the three of you alone in our apartment. Really nothing suspected. I mean, we were all cool, so I used to hang out there. It was whatever. I come back, and I had a key to the apartment because it's my apartment, as I should, because I paid rent there. However, for some reason, these three young ladies felt that I may have been an intruder. So I was ambushed by three West Indian ladies with makeshift weapons. I think Nashiba came in swinging on a chandelier like Pirates of the Caribbean. Like she jumped off of a chair. And I was like, ladies, this is my place. Like, why y'all beat me up? And you guys looked at me. And you're like, hey, we didn't know who you were. Like you could have been here to meet the time. So I say that although Arlene is very articulate and a very nice person, very very mentorship oriented, she does have another side. Where
safety first. Ask questions later.
Safety first, exactly. So I'll let you tell your story about me, and then we'll wrap up the segment because you have. Okay. I like people to clown me on my show because it's good for ratings. So
now listen, I wasn't going to say anything, but since I have been given the okay, I'm going to go ahead and share because it's hilarious. Well, it's funny, but it's not. I don't know. You decide. So anyway, back in college, I was kind of up to no good with my girlfriends and a cousin of mine. Now we're really nice people, we're really loving people, but I mean, we really, really wanted to get James. And I don't even know how we came up with this, like why we thought this was a good idea, but some kind of way we
Why did
thought...
you want to get James specifically?
See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't even know why James was the target. I just feel like we wanted to do something, like we were just in a mischievous mood. And when we started talking about what we could do, I think you just seemed to be the best person to fit because we felt like you would fall for it. And it would be hilarious. I mean, I'm just saying, we felt like this would be perfect. So that's what we did. So we knew that at that particular time, James was very serious about the Lord, as he is now. But he was very serious about the Lord in study. And I don't even know if he was talking about, I don't know if you were talking about, like, the Lord coming soon or whatever tip you were on. But we were like, this is going to work. So my cousin and my friends and I, we decided to trick him into thinking that it was the last days and people from the government were coming to get him to, like, take him off to some kind of camp or compound where they were going to be housing, Christians because they were Christians, because it's the last days. And so we apparently enlisted the help of, like, one of his really good friends, I think, somebody that he would have believed. Like, James has a lot of friends, and a lot of them, are kind of like jokesters, and so he wouldn't have believed this coming from just anybody. So we picked somebody that he would really, really believe this story from, and so he was enlisted. So basically, my cousin, who was in nursing administration and had a very professional voice, now, I did as well, but obviously he would know it was me, so I couldn't make the call. So we enlisted my cousin, who could really put on a very professional, militant kind of persona.
She did a really good job. I'll never forget that.
So she called James, and basically we gave her all kinds of personal information about James that she shouldn't know, that a stranger shouldn't know. So that was going to kind of up the ante and really convince him that, oh my goodness, this is the government. They have all this, like, she knew information about his father, like all kinds of stuff. And so basically she convinced him that I am who I say I am, and I know who you are, and this is really happening. You need to come with us. You need to come with us. You need to, pack all your bags because the Lord is coming soon, and we are taking you away to this facility, and we are coming right now. You need to get it together. And James was frightened. He was frightened, and he got his bags together. He was like telling people bye, and I don't know if he was writing letters or what, but let me tell you, I think we were there when she actually made the call. So we were dying inside, dying of laughter.
Yeah, I was about to go on the run.
I mean, like, and so I don't even know how or when we actually told him that this was not for real. But when we did, it was I mean, you know what, honestly?
Well, Keith told me as I was putting the first bag into my automobile to head west, away from Huntsville. So he finally told me, and he started laughing. Actually, he laughed so hard, he was falling over on the ground laughing in front of our apartment, and some other people came out and laughed. But that was very well executed, very well played, Dr. Archer.
Well, let me just say this: the well played execution is going to speak well of the well played execution and devotion and commitment that I have in terms of follow through. So as I mentor these young people, I really am going to put in that same follow-through. It's going to be for a good purpose. We're not going to be tricking anybody. We're really going to be committed, though. See, I was committed. We were committed to that thing. See, if you want something to work, you really have to be committed. So, I'm glad that James took it as well as he took it, although I know I'm going to have to watch my back.
You would have to watch your back regardless. I had never forgotten.
But that was good. But it was kind of not funny, though. But it was good.
No, it was funny. It was by far the best prank that anyone's ever played on me. I've been pontificating over this. This happened in like 1999.
Yeah, way back.
More than 15 years ago. But I've been figuring out and open in a way. In many ways, Arlene, that's why we're still friends, because I have to keep some type of tabs on you so I can get you back. Like if you go too far underground, then I'm not gonna be able to get you back. All of that said, it's great having you on the show. I really look forward to you bringing all of the talents and really your passion for young people to Advent Sports Network. We're gonna have a great time, and we're gonna raise a lot of money. So really, I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Blessings.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blessing thus far as I journey with you, and I look forward to the journey ahead.
The Lance J Radio Show is taped at Advent Sports Network Studios, located in beautiful Emerald City of Seattle, Washington.